never satisfies in the long run when it's all about the outcome. People are really hungry for human connection to others.
It's not that the fear goes away. You look at it as something that is a part of you, but it's not who you are. Welcome back to I Can Fit That In, the show where ambition meets alignment. Today, I am joined by my guest, Yael Shy, an award-winning author, meditation teacher, and CEO of Saphira Wellness. Yael is also the founder of Mindful NYU, one of the largest campus-based mindfulness initiatives in the country. Her work explores how we navigate uncertainty, relate to ourselves, and find steadiness in the midst of it all. And we know there's a lot. She brings a thoughtful and nuanced perspective on how desire, something we often try to control, can actually help ease anxiety and unlock a deeper sense of joy. Yael, I am so excited for this conversation with you today.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I want to start at your work is so centered around helping people truly slow down and reconnect and get centered. And I'm curious, what first led you to this path personally?
Yeah. I was a hot mess in college. I was I've always been a very anxious person, had a lot of like panic attacks and loneliness and difficulties, and a lot of things that were happening in my life, like my parents getting divorced happened around this time. So it was kind of this perfect storm of my natural tendencies to be anxious and my life kind of falling apart. It happened to be 9/11. So all kinds of horrible things happening. And I was falling apart, and I found a meditation retreat, and I had no idea. I never meditated before in my life. And on this retreat, I started to just learn so much about what was happening inside of me. And it wasn't pretty, but it led to real transformation, a real different relationship to my anxiety and to my entire life. And so that was kind of the beginning of how I started to do this work.
That's amazing. And you found meditation fairly early in life. A lot of people find it much later. So what a gift to find that and to really start to relate to yourself in those new ways, which we all know are so incredibly helpful and healing. For all the listeners, Yael and I were actually introduced by Ladro Rensler, who is also going to be on this show. And actually, we've already recorded. So his episode it actually comes out very soon. So Ladro is a Buddhist meditation teacher, and he wrote a book called The Buddha Walks into a Bar. And it is the first book that I read on mindfulness/meditation. And it was the entree for me at 29, almost 30 years old, getting into what is, that relationship with yourself. And that's where it all started for me so long ago. And so I can relate so much to the journey of meditation and mindfulness and the importance of it. I'm wanting to go from here to the book that you're currently writing, because you're already an author. And I believe the name of your book is called What's Now. Is that correct?
The first
Yes,
book.
yes. And that came out in 2017?
Yes, almost 10 years
Almost
ago.
10 years ago. And the book that you're writing now is all about desire. And you're going to share a lot of your perspectives, essentially on, not just high achieving people in general. We have a lot of desires. It's a human thing to have a lot of desires. How can high achieving, high performing people specifically navigate the attachment to the outcomes of their desires?
Yeah, and you asked the question in a really smart way, because I think that it's that focus on the thing that is going to eventually make me happy, or the thing that will eventually prove I'm a success. I deserve to be here. That I think especially high achieving people, but to some degree, everyone is after. Like, that's what we're chasing, and that's what keeps us going. And it's an energy source to be chasing those things. But what I think you write about so beautifully in your book is that when we're always focused on that outcome, first of all, we neglect like our now, our here, the joy that is on offer from the universe in this moment. And second of all, when we actually get what it is that we want, we don't stay satisfied for very long. Maybe it's a moment, maybe it's a week, maybe it's a day where you're like, yes, I got it, amazing. And then it's kind of on to the next thing. And that leads to a lot of painful things like burnout and unhappiness and deep unhappiness, because that never satisfies in the long run when it's all about the outcome. So it doesn't mean that we need to turn off our desires. This is an amazing part about us, but it means we have to start to look at the process and the feeling of desire itself and what we really want, what we're really after. And then when we kind of key into that and at an internal level, then we can be lit up by the process of wanting rather than just attaching ourselves to whether or not we get the outcome.
Yeah. So what's coming up for me and listening to you talk is it's about enjoying the journey along the way to
Yes.
achieving that desire, right? Because I
Yes.
mean, you're so there's so much truth to what you just said, and I know I am so guilty of this so much in my past of being so attached to the outcome that if something doesn't go according to plan, either I feel like a failure or things blow up and like I'm going to blame someone or something and try to
Yes.
find the cause, right? Try to find the reason. When in reality, sometimes the way that life works is that there's a far better plan that you cannot see when you have such tunnel vision on your attachment to that specific outcome. So if things don't go according to plan, maybe the universe has a bigger plan for you. Or maybe there's a pivot that you have to open your eyes to and see the possibilities beyond just that one tunnel vision outcome that you think you have to achieve, right? So does your book,
Exactly.
is that what you're going to write about too, is how our desires and releasing ourselves from that attachment or that sense of control can help us see that there's more possibility. I love
Exactly.
it.
It's like the world kind of opens up. One of the best examples of this recently that's been kind of in the news or on the medias is Lissa Liu, the Olympic gold medalist. When she was training, she started training when she was like really young and 13, I think. And she was kind of doing the thing that everybody does, like punishing training to get to the medal. And when she finished that like first bout of training, she was burnt out, she was exhausted, she was demoralized, and she quit skating. And then several years later, she decided, I want to come back to skating, but I want to do it my way. I want to connect to the joy of it more than that attachment to outcome. And when you're talking about high achieving, I mean, it doesn't get more high achieving than the
Yeah.
Olympics. Yet she did it. She kind of stayed close to what she wanted deeply, to who she wanted to be, and to the joy of the skating itself. And it took her to the gold. And even though she got the gold, what she talked about in interviews afterwards was like, that was cool. But the thing I wanted to do more than anything else was to skate in the way I wanted to skate. And I think there's such an important kind of message and possibility for all of us in that.
Yeah. And what I want to drive home for listeners is that so often we will feel pressured to be someone we are not, or we
Mm-hmm.
will feel pressured to perform according to the way that things have always been done, even if we know that there's a better way and that we want to help create that better way. And I know for me as a business owner, 7 years now, early on, there were a lot of people who were like, Erin, you should look at how people have always done this and learn from them. And my response was no, because that would not be true to me. I want to do
Mm-hmm.
this because it brings me joy. And I want to literally show up with my clients from a place of heart and soul. And I want to be there. I'm so fully present as me. And that's what they get. They get my authenticity, my authentic self, not some version of me that's trying to be like somebody else. And that is exactly what you just talked about with the Olympic medalist, is that if you try to be someone you're not, if you're trying to live up to a standard or perform as someone, someone or according to someone else's standards, then you won't be fully you. And if you're not fully you, it's going to be really hard to connect to the joy in the journey. It's going to be really hard to notice that joy, let alone to be open to the possibilities of what it is are giving your effort to, right?
Exactly, exactly. And the first part of my book is around this framework of unburying your desires. And what are we unburying from? It's this. It's like, who told you you needed to be some specific frame of a person, or you told yourself, like, I need to be different than how I am. And that's the kind of desires I'm chasing. And the first work we have to do is to be like, but who am I? What do I really want? And then I kind of have the courage to live that life, to come close to that life of who I'm meant to be, and still go after what I want.
Right, right. So many people, they do feel that pressure to somehow define clarity and certainty about their path. And a lot of people, they don't have the courage to take the next step if they don't think things are certain, right? So what do you think that we misunderstand about either uncertainty or certainty, whichever way you want to answer that question?
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes about desire comes from Dr. Mark Epstein, who is also a Buddhist meditation teacher, a psychiatrist, and he writes, the opposite of anxiety is not being calm, it's feeling your desire. And what I think he maybe means by that is that oftentimes we have a choice. We can either be afraid of something, or we can lean into what we really want. But both sides of those are about facing the unknown, about facing the uncertain. So we can either like face the unknown with fear and like telling ourselves stories about how bad it's going to be, or we can face the unknown touching into like, well, I really want this. Do I know I'm going to get it? Nope. But I can, when I do that, when I lean into the desire, it's expansive and it's energizing and it's like kind of delightful, even though it might also have that fear and that anxiety that comes along for the ride.
Mm. Yeah, because in mindfulness teachings in general, it's not that the fear goes away. It's that
Exactly.
you look at it as something that is a part of you, but is not who you are, right? And so you're able to compartmentalize essentially that fear is not wrong, it's not bad. It's just doing what it's kind of biologically trained to do, which is protect and defend you even from your own growth, right? Like that's how it works. I always say to people, you got to outsmart your own mind, right? Because your mind is similar to everybody else's. It's going to talk to you in these weird ways. It's going to try to keep you from taking steps forward because the uncertainty of who you are on the other side of that step is unknown and your mind is scared of that, right? So again, it's not bad. It's just that you have to see it for what it is, and that's where you're able to face that fear. So what would you say about mindfulness and how it actually changes the way that we make decisions and navigate day-to-day lives? Because obviously you teach mindfulness at NYU and you've got, so much expertise with this. So how does it
Yeah.
help us make decisions differently or better?
In many ways, I think part of how we make decisions is we root them, and maybe it's because I'm obsessed with the topic right now, but we root them in either decisions based on our deepest desires or decisions based on what we're afraid of. And so, and then also like there's like logical pieces that go into the puzzle, but if you dig underneath those logical pieces, often there's either a fear or there's a wish or a desire. And so when we become still and quiet for a certain period of time, there's a whole lot that happens. First of all, healing happens, like we were talking before this about like wrenching, crying, things that when you face yourself, if you haven't faced yourself in a while, like they may come up into that silence. And that's beautiful. And then what happens when you still stay with yourself is you learn more about, like, well, what is this thing I'm calling the self, or this person I'm calling Yael? And what are these various pieces? And that's where you begin to learn and hear the stories that otherwise just, like, we go on autopilot. We hear the story, we believe the story. We hear the story, we believe the story. Like, I'm a loser. Okay, I'm a loser. I'm amazing. I'm the best. Okay, I'm the best. Like, all of these things that just play on loops in our mind, we begin to hear them more clearly. And we hear them not as just the truth, but as the things our minds are telling us. And so then we have a choice. There opens up a vista of possibilities of, like, okay, now that I've heard the story, now that I know a little bit about what I really want or what I'm really afraid of, I can make a decision based on what I really want to follow and what's, like, in the service of growth and change, and what's in the service of keeping me stuck. And so that's kind of how that process begins to happen.
And what would you say is a good way for someone who wants to start a mindfulness practice? Um, something like just kind of basic that they could begin with.
Mm. I think it's best to start small, digestible, in pieces. I love the way that your book kind of, like, has you carve out this time to deepen and to, like, provide more space and more time for the things that really matter. So I think finding 10 minutes a day, or if that's really too much, like, start with 3 breaths a day, just 3 breaths, or some time in your schedule where you know that you can do this. And one of the most fun ones I've heard of people doing is, how in the beginning of emails people usually write, like, I hope this finds you well. I heard of this one woman being like, every time I'm writing that, I actually hope this finds them well. It's
Yeah.
like a 1 minute practice where you're, like, sending a little bit of love to another person. It's a form of mindfulness that is kind of just interrupts and expands on your everyday.
Yes. I love that. It's like the intention behind it. You're sending positive intent, right? Positive energy. So you work with both individuals and with organizations, and I'm curious about what do you see in today's world is maybe the biggest gap in the way that workplaces or leadership is approaching like well-being in the workplace at this point.
Mm. I think people are really hungry for real human connection, both to other people and to themselves. And that's, like, the AI onslaught, the over information onslaught, and the just kind of, like, general churning of fear and production in the world. That's like, we're all asking the question of what makes us human, and where are the humans? And so I think that's what we have to respond to from the well-being side. And it's not in contrast with, I think, more profits and more good things for the company. I think, again, as you write about, like, these things can go hand in hand so that we kind of keep being in touch with that human element.
Right. Yeah. It's both and it's not either or. And the better that
Mhm.
each person feels in their own lives, the better their performance will be, the higher their productivity will be, and the better their relationships, right? And so with all of that means less tension, it means higher retention, it means better employee engagement. You're increasing the outcomes for your clients. I mean, all of those things happen and there's a ripple effect and it's very real. I mean, I've experienced it. I know hundreds of people that have experienced it. And so, I think we're in this world now where that human side is not only so relevant, but so important. And we cannot continue on as if we're just pieces of output because clearly we now have AI, which that is a piece of output. Like let the robots be the output, let the humans be the humans, right? Um, so if someone is in transition or some sort of uncertainty in their career right now, what is one thing or maybe two things that you would really want them to trust and to know, even if they can't see it just yet?
Mm. Part of the book, in the beginning part of the book that I'm writing, it's called it's that process of unburying the desire and finding where it is alive in you. So, as we talked about, for many of us, it's been buried. It's underneath anxiety or a restless, like endless search for that thing that's going to make us happy. And so we're far away from what actually makes us happy. I had a client the other day that said to me, he was like, every day feels like it's a groundhog's day. It's the same day again and again. There is no joy. And then I said, well, where do you find joy or connection? And he was like, I guess on vacation. And then how often do you go on vacation? He's like, I don't know, once or twice a year. And then I said, you cannot live like that where there is no joy except twice a year.
Right.
So you have to go kind of like slow down, listen. I imagine it kind of, I've lived in New York City for most of my life. So I imagine like kind of listening for the subway, like the rumblings. Where is the rumblings of the joy, of the thing that you really want, that you notice when I feel this way, when I look at this, I feel that desire and that aliveness. I come alive again. And then really paying attention to it and really beginning to say, okay, I want more of this, and kind of marking that map
Yeah.
back to yourself.
Yes. Yes. I love that too. So obviously, yes, you live in New York City and have for a long time. I lived in New York in my 20s and I was not a mindful person when I lived there. My journey with mindfulness did not start until several years later. But gosh, would it have helped me navigate that city and just all of the energy coming at you? So, what are the non negotiables in your life? What are those things that you fit in, those rituals that truly matter to you and help you stay grounded and centered and connected to yourself?
Mm. Definitely meditation, obviously. I think that is huge. I think regular connection to nature,
Mhm.
and that's my counterbalance to the city world. Getting into nature, talking to trees,
Thank God
breathing
for
that
Central Park, right?
I know. And all the parks.
Yes.
Um, and I think the third is like being real, talking to real friends, like we're talking about that human element, laughing and being real with friends. And I think those three are huge.
Yes, definitely. That connection is so key. And what does it mean to you personally to live with intention in your life now? And I imagine maybe that's changed over the years. As you've deepened your own mindfulness journey, that's probably changed. So just talk to us a little bit about that.
Mm. I think when I was younger, and it's interesting that the books are this far apart. I mean, part of what happened is that I had two kids in the interim, but I think in my first book, I was really studying my pain. I was just in my 30s and I had come out of this like very traumatic and a lot of like healing work. And so that book is about how do you kind of deal with the pain of what it is to be in your 20s and 30s and the uncertainty of what's next. And this book, it's very much a book for people at midlife who are now ready to study their joy and their desires and really to key into that. And so I think that's my intention, to learn, to grow, and to really study my desire in the hopes that it helps other people to unlock and open up theirs.
Right. Yeah. I want no more joy in my life, said nobody ever. Right. So I think this will be a fun book for people to read in midlife and remember that life can be fun and it can be joyful. It doesn't mean every moment's going to be, but every moment doesn't have to be painful and miserable either. And so I'm really excited for your book to come out. So tell us where people can find it and when it will be out, and also just where to find you.
Yeah, my website is www.yaelshy.com, my full name. And the book should come out next spring. That's spring of 2027 through Diversion Books. And I hope it will be available wherever books are sold. And I hope it really helps people.
Awesome. And you're also on Instagram and LinkedIn. Is that correct?
That's right. Yael Shy #1 on both of those platforms.
Perfect. And we will include all of that in the show notes so people can dig in and learn more about you and your upcoming book and all the things on mindfulness that you have to teach organizations and people. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Yael. Thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed our conversation. I know it will be so helpful to so many. So thanks again for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Erin.
And everyone, you know what to do. Please like, share, subscribe, and let's get this out to more people in the masses. That's what helps the show grow and helps this movement in making a better world for all of us. Until next time.